you'll see on the front table there in front of, if you can, Dwayne and Carolyn, there is another piece of technology that Jordan, our famous Jordan Matson, has set up called Gopro. And we're going to test that out because we're trying to figure out a way to have these meetings be recorded, go out live, but not doing it in this fashion, just to make it a little easier for everybody involved and whatnot. So don't be surprised, we're looking into new options. The other thing is, hard as it might be to believe, we are coming up upon a couple of things called holidays, one of which is Christmas. And this club has traditionally done, of course, a program for children, a Christmas program for children. And last year, because of the pandemic, we made it a drive-through. Thanks to David McKinney and the social committee, we were able to go on the Bitterroot Way and bring the kids there. So this year, we're going to do not the same thing, but we're going to do just a little bit more, speaking of hybrid, and with access to the wonderful conference room adjacent to the Rotary office at the new YVC Conference Center. We're going to set up kind of a walkthrough. Mike Hummel and the social committee is putting that together. And it's going to be December 16th in the afternoon. And the reason I'm bringing this up right now is one of the things that would really make it helpful and make it a lot easier for the social committee is if any of you have lighted Christmas decorations, particularly, and I'm talking specifically about those outdoor ones that are like reindeer or, those white kind of trees that are lighted that fold up and that kind of thing. If you have any of those things and would be willing to loan them to us for the day of the 16th, just get in touch with either Mike or I or Carolyn. We'd really like to use them. I have the ones that were left from the greatest party ever, Eric. We were going to sell those at the next auction, but the next auction didn't quite happen that way. And so I still have them in my garage. And so we're going to use those, but we could use others as well, just for that day. It'll be a lot of fun to make this. We wanted to try to make this room really magical for the kids. And Carolyn has promised to dress up as an elf. So, well, I don't know if she's promised, but I've offered that opportunity for her. And so keep that in mind. And if you have anything, we'd love to know if you know about any. Now, Charlie Robin has a new member. Da, 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 da.
You're my show and tell. I'm sure this will work for a tall person. No, not at all. Not like I need it, but nonetheless, it is my pleasure to introduce to the Downtown Rotary, Dr. Andy Webb. And Andy was born and raised in Prosser, attending elementary school in Grandview, and then middle school and high school in Prosser. While her father's passed away, her mother does still live in Prosser. She has 6 younger brothers, 14 nieces and nephews, the majority of whom all live in the area. After a significant amount of moving around, which I'll discuss, she is thrilled to be back so close to family and honored to be part of the Yakima School District administrative team. Her official title is the Director for STEAM for the Yakima School District. And note the inclusion of the A in STEAM, very important. Andy actually started dancing while she was in the room, and her mother will verify. She started lessons officially in 8th grade and served on her high school drill team, dance, and cheer squads. That's where she got her first white knee-high go-go boots, still has them in her closet. While in high school, she was actively involved all 4 years in theater and also with FFA, the Future Farmers of America. She credits FFA for her great leadership skills training. She competed as a public speaker and as an extemporaneous speaker on an individual basis and with her team in the state level parliamentary procedures competition in very dramatic fashion. She attended WSU. It's a requirement, apparently, and brought all that, all that training, all that background, and joined the Color Guard, incorporating all of her choreographic skills. She continued her FFA affiliation, was elected as a state officer, serving for 1 year as FFA representative and ambassador, and received national level designation as an American FFA with an American FFA degree. She studied agricultural education with a degree in bachelor's in science and education. Yeah, she had to do them both. So Andy competed in pageants that fed both the Miss USA and Miss American, competing at different times for the titles of Miss Yakima, Miss Spokane, and Miss Tri-Cities, because the girl got around. Sorry. She was specifically drawn to the talent emphasis, showcasing her dance skills and all the scholarship opportunities that came with pageants. It also showcased her interview and speaking abilities, which you won't hear today. Through her work with 89 of her sisters, she chartered the Alpha Phi sorority on campus and is an active member still as an alum. While a student, she worked full-time at Pete's Bar and Grill for other WSU grads who might know the place. After graduation, she worked 11 years teaching agriculture, including horticulture, greenhouse management, welding, I did say welding, veterinary medicine, floral design, and business and marketing in the Battleground and Sunnyside school districts. Truly a jack of all trades. She moved to the dark side, and moved into administration. She got her master's in educational administration, having felt she had done what she could do in the teaching side and wanted to expand her knowledge and continue to make a difference. She was doing her certification as a CTE director, career and technical education, to augment her admin skills and credentials. Continued throughout as a dance and drill coach in both Washington and Oregon at the high school level, including the choreographer, then shifting to officiating. Became an official with the Washington Officials Association as a referee, still involved after 16 years. I hope no one's counting any years. That's not allowed. With a second job to pay off her master's, also provided the opportunity for kids to compete based on the requirements to have officials at the competitions. She went into doing her doctorate work, went to work for WSU as STEAM director, realized her passion for secondary education, so went back to that. Designed STEAM programs basics for Tri-Cities and took the opportunity to become deputy director for an American school in Amman, Jordan for 3 years, and then 2 years in Bahrain as director of the international school there. Serving as a warden for the American Embassy in Bahrain, learning the Arabic language and Middle Eastern cultures. Like I said, she gets around. She has a real passion for the arts. Now all the arts for the performing and fine arts are under her direction at YSD. All that experience helping her support the students and the contribution makes in the education in all of their lives. Previously, she was affiliated with Rotary in Gresham, Oregon, while director at a charter school there. In Rotary, she wants to build the community and provide the service, especially with regard to scholarship and literacy, as well as she appreciates all the extraordinary networking. She's so impressed by the efforts that lead to the example in this community of the Aquatic Center specifically. Just a particular quote that she says, "If anyone can move things in the world, it would be Rotarians." And the other quote that I specifically gave a great sense of her character was, "She is convinced that Gene Roddenberry was a time traveler." So for all of Downtown Rotary, let me introduce our newest member, Dr. Andy Webb. Woo.
Don't go away. Thank you, Charlie, and welcome, Dr. Webb. Andy, here is your plaque for your wall, the famous blue book with all the members and all 3 clubs, your red badge, which becomes a blue badge when you finish Rotary education, as Trevor can tell you all about, and the most famous of all, your own license plate holder. Right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Speaking of Christmas, next we have Rick Fairbrook.
Get this off, I'll talk. If I can't, you're lucky, I guess. Okay, there we go. Yeah, John, thanks for opening up the door for Christmas. We have a couple of seasonal projects that we have worked on for many, many years. And one of them is the Salvation Army's Project 500. Some of you may remember that it used to be Project 200 and then Project 300. Now it's Project 500. And the project, for those of you who don't know, it gives us the opportunity as Rotarians to support the purchase of clothing and clothing items for students who've been selected or determined to be deserving of and in need of clothing by the elementary schools in the area. There are 15 schools that are participating this year. And I mentioned we call the program 500, but this year there are already 674 students who have been determined to be in need of clothing. So there's a little deficit right there. Each year, actually the last 2 years, they've actually last year and this year, the shopping is going to be at Old Navy. And Old Navy has been a great partner. They bring in a lot of inventory. They provide deep discounts. And then every sponsor, whether you're just a financial sponsor or a shopper sponsor, participates in a $75 gift card. So they have these deep discounts. They have a lot of inventory. They don't have the child or the student this year as last year. They have a list from that student about what they need, the sizes that they have, and what they'd like to receive. So the shopper has that in hand, goes to Old Navy and does the shopping, gets a good feel for from providing this to a needy student, and that student then receives it. So there are 2 shopping dates. The 18th of November, that's a Thursday, 7 to 10, and Saturday, November 20th, 7 to 10. So you can be a shopper and you can be a supporter together, or you can be just a financial supporter. And that really helps because you can see there's a difference between 674 and what I say, 260 students have been selected at Adams alone. And they are, the Adams staff actually raises money for their students. So 260 are accounted for in terms of financing. So that leaves a gap. And we have an opportunity as Rotarians this year, a special opportunity, because there is a Rotary match of not that much, $3,750, which represents 50 $75 gift certificates or gift cards that are going to be available, certainly if we match that as a club. So it's a $75 financial contribution. On your table, there's an opportunity to sign up as a shopper or as a donor or sponsor. And you have the chance to not make it 50, but 100 or more young students receive nice clothing, warm clothing, and put a smile on their face and a gleam in their eye, and make our hearts feel warm by participating. So on your table, you can sign up, make a choice, and make a difference. So the other thing, since this is a seasonal announcement period, I'm not going to put my hat on yet because it's a little early to wear this. Thank you. Okay, but I will ring the bell just as a reminder that this Rotary Club has been participating in the Red Kettle campaign with the Salvation Army to raise funds to put back into our community to support those who need support. I don't even know how long we've been doing it, to tell you the truth, but every year we have manned 3 or 4 locations, anywhere from 96 shifts to 120. This year we're 96 at 4 locations: the Fred Meyer Grocery, Fred Meyer North, Rose Hours, and Ray's. And I guess I have a passion for this. I've been doing it a long time. It's just the easiest way to raise money for a good cause. It doesn't cost us, and it doesn't cost us to do anything other than stand at a kettle and ring a bell. Maybe have a smile on your face and greet people and, try to make it fun, dress up. I wear much more than this, by the way. And it's a good feeling. And we've raised between $7,000 and $10,000, depending on the year. Last year was about 7,000. This year, hopefully more, but 7,000 that was a tough year. But we have an opportunity to just spend 2 hours of our time, ring a bell, smile at people, encourage them. They come in and they put money in the kettle, and we raise that kind of money for this community. I mean, it's pretty special. And there's special people in this club who have, signed up and taken a shift. Sometimes they've taken 2 shifts, sometimes 3, when the need is there. One person in particular last year, I call him the Iron Man, our Sheriff Bob, took 2 shifts in a row. So he was out there 4 hours in a row. I couldn't believe it. So, that was fantastic. So just a reminder, on your table, there's a sign-up sheet. Also on the website, you can find the signups as well. We already have 2 spots taken, which is nice before we even kick off. And just a reminder that this year the schedule is a little different. It's broken up into two schedules. The 2 Fred Meyer locations, and then there's Rose Hours and Ray's. So just be aware of that. You have to look a little bit farther to find your shift. So you can start now. We do have plenty of time, but never too late to start. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Rick. Now, this seems to be President-elect and past President Day, because now we have past President Eric, who wants to talk about the new member research.
Hey, President John. It's like this is having some fun.
Yeah.
We haven't been able to have a celebration of our new Rotarians in the last 3 years. And so we're going to have a party. And you know how I like parties, okay? So we're going to have a new member reception for that were introduced during my year, Jennifer's year, and also during John's year. And we want you to come and enjoy the company of Rotarians, see those new Rotarians, meet them, and also board members and also members of the Membership Retention Rotary Education Committee. The location is going to be at the YVC Whitner tasting room, and that's on the west end of the YVC, next door to the beautiful Larson Gallery, and that's going to be on the 17th of November, and it's going to be from 4:30 until 6 p.m. It will also include some Rotary education, so you could be able to get that red badge turned to blue real quick, and so you can get that all taken care of. The invitations are going to be going out to you very soon, but please join us so we can be able to welcome our new Rotarians from the last 3 years to this event that's going to be on November 17th from 4:30 till 6 o'clock. Can't wait to be able to see you. Let's have a party. Bye.
Yeah, whatever. You can hear me anyway. All right. Now, Sergeant at Arms.
pounds. So if you're one of that minority that didn't gain 15 pounds, please pay $1 because apparently you've got too many other things going on in your life. Next slide, please. One of the next things that I learned in COVID is I remember when Zoom was a hot cereal. So, but you know that the history of Zoom, it was actually formed about 11 years ago, and their first client was Stanford University. And before the pandemic started in December, they had about 10 million users a day. And by the time April rolled around of 2020, that had grown to 300 million per day. So obviously Zoom has really become a part of our life. It actually was and still is a hot cereal. It's got just a number of different, what I want you to tell me is which of these is not an actual Zoom slogan. Ta-ra-ra, Zoom DA, have you had Zoom today? Have Zoom for breakfast and be a morning millionaire. Whole wheat for the whole family or poop like a champion. Which one is not an actual Zoom slogan? First one, it's actually the last one. But poop like a champion is actually the name of a cereal made by Krusteaz or Krusteaz Mix, and it is gluten-free. So if you've ever used it or feel you have a need to use it, please pay $1. Next slide, please. So what's on TV? Obviously, when we were stuck at home, binge watching became just one of the biggest things out there. And, you know, the LA Times decided to look at their top 10 binge watched TV shows, or the ones that were worthy of binge watching. So what I want you to do is put $1 in your hand and hold it up. And if you've seen one of these top 10s, you can drop your hand, okay? So grab your $1, hold it up. Hoarding, Buried Alive, The Walking Dead, Mad Men, High School Musical, the series, the British humor show, Doc Martin, Parks and Rec, also Parks and Recreation, a couple of throwbacks, I Love Lucy, Columbo, My Name is Earl, and Schitt's Creek. So if you are still holding $1 up, apparently you don't have a life. Please hand it over to the Sergeant at Arms. Next slide, please. Maybe on a little more serious note, I need a drink. US adult consumption did rise by about 14%, and heavy drinking actually jumped by 20%. Heavy drinking is describing as having greater than 5 drinks a day for 2 days a week over 2 weeks of the prior 30 days. I know it's a lot of math, and I'm sure Bob Romero gets it because he went to Wazoo. But anyway, they looked at the various generations that, of course, were legally old enough to drink. And where did that really occur the most? Well, the first one, of course, are our beloved Gen X, the ages 41 through 56, followed by the boomers, followed by the younger kids, the millennials, followed by Gen Z, followed by those very wise silent generation, those older than age 75. So I think I'm going to pick on the Gen Xers. If I don't care whether you overdid it or not. If you're in that age group, I'm just plain jealous. So please pay $1. And of course, the other thing that we learned about, with COVID was a lot of, somewhat controversial new treatments that evolved, such as monoclonal antibodies or ivermectin. But rumor has it that CDC is working on approval for a new catch-all therapy called iverhaglin. And obviously, go ahead and advance, please. Obviously, Ivor was known for his clam chowder, but he, of course, was a Seattle area icon for a number of years. Kids of Norwegian immigrants. So if you don't know about any of these following facts, please pay $1 to the Sergeant at Arms. He was elected port commissioner in 1983 after, as a prank, filing for office. He actually got elected. He went on to purchase the Smith Tower and Pier 54. And he was also very close friends with the famous author Thomas Wolfe, who came out to visit him when his restaurant opened in 1938 and caught pneumonia about 2 weeks later and died. And since Ivor didn't have any heirs, all of his money went to the University of Washington. So if you were not aware of any of one of those facts, please pay $1, enjoy the program, and as Ivor would say, keep clam.
Thank you very much, Doug. And now to introduce our speaker, it was to be Bunker on,
It is. It
Zoom,
is.
but I think
It is.
Casey
No,
Oh, he's going, okay, all right. So it is going to be Bunker on Zoom.
it is Bunker. Yes. When the program committee first met to consider speakers for this year, I felt confident that with the Rotary commitment to all things related to students, that we would be interested in learning from our leaders how the process of reopening school after the COVID year went and how the plan developed. And so we were pleased to capture Trevor Green, superintendent of Yakima School District. And I'm just going to abbreviate their bios because I know they have a very full program as well as want to leave time for questions. Fortunately, both are hometown boys. Trevor is the current superintendent of the Yakima School District, and he began his role in 2019. The interesting thing is Trevor has probably served students in every realm possible, beginning as a para-educator and a security guard to becoming the National Principal of the Year by the National Association of Secondary Principals in 2013. He proceeded through his credentialing and achieved a doctoral degree in educational leadership and policy studies from the University of Washington. But an unknown fact to me was that Dr. Green holds dual citizenship in the US and is an enrolled member of the Muscogee Creek Nation in Oklahoma. He's bilingual in English and Spanish and is a leader in his faith community. So I know we'll look forward to hear from Trevor. We're also going to be able to hear from another hometown boy, Kevin Chase. He is the superintendent of the Yakima-based Educational Service District 105, which assists programs of 25 school districts and 23 private and tribal schools in South Central Washington. But Kevin was raised in Sunnyside, where he graduated from high school. He obtained a BS degree in agriculture education from WSU and a master's degree in education administration from Heritage College, as well as a superintendent certification from WSU. So please welcome these professional leaders who give their professional skills, but also a lot of their personal life to the students of our valley.
Thank you, Bunker. And yeah, I guess I'll just yell or get shorter here. I remember in 1983, sitting in a classroom at Davis High School as a sophomore and watching a student teacher and thinking, knowing that I wanted to be an educator, knowing that I wanted to be a teacher, and thinking I could never do that. I could never stand up in front of a group and teach and have them look at me and have them watch me and have to teach and entertain and educate. And here I am, opening act for Kevin Chase now. And I'm worried about the 20 minutes because I am a recovering principal. And I think 20 minutes just scratches the surface, but our goal is to leave plenty of time for us to have a conversation about what interests you, what questions you have. So I will maybe not touch on every item, but I'll give you kind of a wide swath of what we faced and what we learned during this ongoing pandemic. First of all, though, I would like to thank those of you that are all here today for giving us your time. Time is the most precious commodity, and I look out and I know I have fellow educators here. We accepted Andy Webb here today. I see Victor Narani as one of our principals at one of our schools. We have our new board of director for the Yakima School District, which is fantastic. I also look out and I see Mr. Morgan and then also Mr. Searle, and I had both of their children in school. And so I have, there's an influence here and a kind of a connection that is intimidating, but it also reminds me why I wanted to come back here to the Yakima School District and what it means to me. I don't know anything different as far as being a superintendent other than being in a pandemic. So that has been my world. I got off a phone call here recently, just last week, and a three-time superintendent across the state and national finalist superintendent of the year shared with me, I'm hearing more and more about superintendents leaving the profession, principals leaving the profession, people leaving the profession. And my response was, lightweights. I mean, this is it. This is the work. And when we went into pandemic mode, you ask what I do, which, what I do is, I work for a school board. I work for you, and we are a policy governance school board. And so the policies are set by the representatives of the people, and it is my job to implement. I'm responsible. I'm accountable for that, but also keeping the functioning of every aspect of the district moving forward to achieve student outcomes. And that is a tremendous responsibility. It's not one I shy away from. And I would say to you, I said this to the newspaper, that the fish smells from the head down. And if there's anything wrong in the Yakima School District, I am the person that is accountable for that. So I need you, I need your voice, I need your perspective to tell us what you see and what you know is wrong. And I look forward to creating more of those opportunities as we exit the pandemic, because we all know that Zoom has been very difficult in bringing people together. And can you imagine teaching on a Zoom platform? Kindergarten students, have you ever been in a kindergarten classroom? It is amazing. I was a secondary teacher, and the first time I had taught I was actually a principal by that point. So I'd been in education 15 plus years. And my first time then going down to the elementary level to watch a kinder class exhausted me. To watch the teacher working, things moving every 2 minutes, different activity, and how the preparation that happens. It's amazing what our teachers do, what our paraeducators do, classified and certified staff do. It's just amazing, and it's a tremendous honor. I also would also share. I know I heard the WSU. I did get my degree from Central Washington University, my master's, my superintendent certification from WSU, and then my doctorate from UW. So I covered all those bases. And I currently have a senior daughter who is at Davis and a sophomore son at Eisenhower. So I think that's going to be the last time I can say that. So what we learned, or I think the first thing is that right before we went into the pandemic, we had finished our strategic plan. And you have an example, kind of the high profile compass perspective, our community commitments of what we came up with in our strategic plan on your table. If you'd like to look at that, you could take it, you can leave it. It's the one with, it just says our compass on, it has the 5 boxes. There are 5 tremendous commitments that we made before going into the pandemic, and we had planned on rolling that out and then moving forward in those commitments. When you look at those commitments, you'll see the underachievement that we were currently experiencing before Am I done? Okay, that's the hook. So we can transform ourselves. And you know that, you think about our teachers going to the online learning model and how difficult that was, but that was the reality. And it provided a tremendous opportunity for teachers and administrators alike to see what was happening in the schools. We like to believe as educators that we know what's happening in the schools, but that's not always the case. But it is when you're online trying to teach a course and you see a third grade student with a baby on her hip or on her lap trying to attend class as you hear noise in the background and see other children running behind. When you have individuals that will log on, that will click off the mute button, and then all of a sudden you hear the chaos when they try to respond and contribute in a lesson. And it's the reality of our students that they faced, and it provided that opportunity for us as educators to see what was happening within the homes, the walls of our students. The challenge now is that now that we're back, we can't forget that. It becomes very easy, and I compare what we were going through as stretching out a rubber band. We want that elasticity, but we also want to put in the pegs to maintain the increases where we want them, to maintain the connectivity, to maintain the relationships, to maintain the things that are good coming out of this crisis. What we can't allow to have happen is to have it go back to the way it always was in some of those areas. Were we doing great things before? Yes. But if you look at our outcomes in our district, if you look at the outcomes in our state, we're certainly not serving all students in education. We have a model that was established well over 100 years ago, and we have to continue to reinvent and be progressive. There are so many options within the Yakima School District now because of the crisis that we had and the opportunities that it afforded us. It allowed us to develop much more robust partnerships. In fact, we just announced this week that we have a partnership with 6 universities where our students who achieve the minimal academic requirement for entry now will have guaranteed access to that university. So if your child wants to go, so I'll take my child as an example. If my daughter, when she graduates this year, if she meets the 3.3, 3.6, whatever the GPA requirement is, then she can enter WSU, Western Washington University, Central Washington University, Eastern Washington University, Pacific Lutheran University, Evergreen State College, and know that she has a place to go. And that is something that is incredible because you think about an 80% population that we is Native American and Latinx, mainly Latinx. We're talking about 79%. And how many of those individuals live in poverty? We know that it's disproportional. We learned last week from hearing our doctors come in here talk about how disproportionately impacted the Latinx community was treated, or the concern that happened during and is ongoing during the pandemic. Well, it relates in the educational space as well. So, we did have to transform ourselves. We looked at the digital divide. We know that there were digital inequities in play, and we're continuing to work towards that. And then I think the last thing I'll share before asking Kevin to come up is just share that the other piece is, and this has really happened recently, is that schools are really political entities and they drive the economy. And that has just been, I think, manifest incredibly over the last year when we think about the way that you think about what's happening with school boards around the country. And, we were able to maintain, as we have 2,500 employees in the Yakima School District. If you count all employees, substitutes, coaches, everything, 2,500 employees. Without school in session, we were able to maintain positions for every one of those individuals. Nobody lost their job during the pandemic. And that right there, thinking about not having bus service, not having many of these. And if you're thinking, well, then what are they doing? It was creative thinking around what could we have people do that didn't relate to their current position to allow them to keep working and to have benefits. For example, our bus drivers were able to work in custodial and maintenance and fix utility, fix buildings, and work in different areas. And that required some creative ingenuity and long conversations with our 11 bargaining units to make sure that people could work outside. Yeah. To make sure that people could work outside of their bargaining unit in about another bargaining unit, be accepted in that bargaining unit, and then maintain their coverage. So I'm proud of the fact that we were able to do that during this time. But as well, what we've seen is that, many people were of the opinion that we should have opened up sooner, or we should have. It's always, how many of you have? We all have people that have had students or have students or have children in schools. How many of you have gone through schools? All of us, I hope. So that gives us all kind of that armchair quarterback approach that, we've been through the schools and we know what should happen. I stand before you to tell you that in consulting with our district every step of the way, the decisions that were made over the past year were mine. They were mine. They were mine alone. We are policy governance. I have every right in my position in the way that we're constructed to make the decisions that go against the board. I did not do that very often. We were pretty much aligned. And I believe we were aligned about 90% of the time. But the focus on safety, recognizing that all things were not equal across the board, that we had so many students that were living in multi-generational homes, our Latinx community that was, not having as much access. And I have personal experiences and firsthand knowledge of how that did play out in our community with access for certain people and not access for other individuals. And it speaks to opportunity again for us to be better than we were, but to also recognize that we have to face the brutal facts before we move forward. So thank you. Thank you. And so as we move forward, I would say that, knowing that there are so many opinions out there, every decision was made on safety. Every decision was made on making sure that we were able to take care of not only our students, but our community and our staff. And it always wasn't an agreement. Every decision that was made, and there were literally hundreds a week. And I'll pass this over to Kevin. I need to do this right now, but this gentleman right here developed so many different support systems in the ESD because he oversees he provides support for all of the districts in the region, including the Yakima School District when needed. And what he was able to do was leverage communities of practice to go through what are the problems that we're all facing, because it was the first time ever gone through anything like this, obviously, and then be able to align our thinking in many areas, but some places that didn't align. And we had to consider our own communities and what that meant, not only health safety wise, but there were political ramifications. And I think we know how that plays out when there are disagreements, but I'm proud of the work that we've done. Again, I've just proved my point that I can't stop talking. So I'm going to step aside. I'm going to have Kevin come up so there's some time left. And yeah, you come up, and then if I'll take any time that's left, that won't be a problem. Yeah, here you go, Kevin.
All right, 5 minutes, including questions. All right, well, I'm going to be short and sweet. First thing I want to do is point this out. Number one, school districts are working very, very hard. I work in a region, so my region actually runs from the top of the pass, Easton School District. So if you've ever been to Seattle, Easton's my farthest one that way. And it goes to Grandview. And then it goes from Royal City to Bickleton and Goldendale. So I get to interface with a lot of different sized districts and a lot of different areas. Goldendale is completely different than Yakima, which is completely different than Wahluke. So what I want you to take away from that is the fact that every situation is local. And it's very difficult to compare, like, oh, by the way, Yakima didn't open till later and Toppenish opened the first day. It's different. It's different for everybody. Matter. And we're finding out that now that we can't depend upon the labor force to be there, it's really causing some issues within the systems. Like, for example, bus drivers, you probably heard it 1,000 times. I'm going to tell you again, anybody here can drive bus. Come on, we need you. We need you. You don't have to do it forever. Do it for the short term. We need you. But the point is, like in Seattle, they canceled 25 or 100 routes and had the parents bring the kids because they don't have the bus drivers. And we have some of the same issues: nursing, mental health support, parapros, teachers, principals. I mean, it's rocky out there, but they're holding it together. And I really, truly have faith in them. The thing that I'm asking from you is that we are getting beaten up politically all over the state, all over the country. And you've seen the insurrections that are occurring at board meetings. We have got to stop fighting. We have got to stop circling the wagons and shooting at each other. We have got to circle the wagons and start buffering for kids. Let us do our jobs. Let us do the work. We see it every single day, every single day. I want you to know the superintendents in our region, Easton to Grandview and Royal City to Goldendale, have been meeting every single week over Zoom. Well, we started out twice a week for an entire year over Zoom, meeting twice a week as a group, trying to say, what do we need to do to navigate this issue? We get buffeted by the State Department of Health. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's a boss now. And so is the governor, and so is State Office of Public Ed. We have lots of different bosses. So don't make a mistake to think that the school board can disregard what the Department of Health is telling them to do. That's not the case. We cannot disregard those things. We have to follow them. I have to tell you, if we do not follow the mandates, our funding is going to be pulled by the state for your district. And if you don't think that's true, I've seen 4 letters sent to superintendents in this state by the State Office of Ed saying you will correct this or we will proceed to take your funding. And so it's true. Let me tell you, the second they hear that something's different, the letter comes directly to the superintendent from the state superintendent saying, hey, you've got to comply or we'll begin the process. And so there is no wiggle room. And I think if people have the misconception that the board, Ryan, thanks for coming on. We do appreciate you. If you think you could call Ryan up and say, you got to change this, you got to fix this, you don't have to follow those rules, Ryan will soon find out that we really don't have any choice. So I guess my big overall message is we're working really hard. Everybody in the system is working hard. We're under stress, but we're not giving up. We've got a lot of power. We've got some really good people and really good minds. And guess what? The kids can do it. You know, I see a lot of adult issues, but when you ask the kids, do you really care? Do you mind doing this? Heck no, we want to come to school. We'll do it. We'll wear the mask. We'll come to school. We'll socially distance. We won't sit with each other at lunch. We just want to be there. And, you know, I think it's interesting to know that our kids have a whole different perspective on what's going on than we do, right? They relish the opportunity, and we have to provide those things. And to do that, we have to comply. And let's be honest, the in-school transmission rates for the virus are minuscule. The transmission inside schools is not where it's happening. So the precautions that we're taking are working. We're keeping kids in class. Our biggest problem is, number one, who do you think? Okay, we have a suspected close contact in room A. What do you think happens next? Well, then we have to contact trace. Who did that student meet during the day from room A? And you know who's doing that work? It's not the Department of Health. It's not the local county Department of Health. They help. Don't get me wrong. But it's this guy. It's that guy. The principals, the secretaries, the nurses, they have to hunt all that down all day long. That's all they're doing. Chasing their tails, trying to contact trace. So we're trying to slow that down. We're trying to work with the Department of Health and try to figure out a better way to do it. But things are looking better. I'm telling you, we've got a better routine. Our instructions down better. We've got our routines. We've got our safety precautions in place. But it's going to be a long haul. It's not going to go away right away. And we've got a long haul to go. But I'm asking you, support us. Stand in and say, look, let them do their jobs. Let's stop disrupting all of this stuff. I think they found a link a place where they can have a public forum all the time. And they could be on the news anytime they want, because public school board meetings have always been open to the public with public comment, public stuff. But the issues they discuss are not the red herrings. They're really not what's going on. I have to tell you, I can show you PowerPoint after PowerPoint. This is the real thing that's happening. I don't understand why they call social emotional learning, which is all about helping kids cope mentally. Last night, Sela School District had a SEL forum online for parents to learn what SEL is, social emotional learning is. You know what the questions were? How is CRT a Trojan horse for SEL? It's not, it has nothing to do with it. So people are thinking those things. So please stand up. Let your neighbors know, let the people you work with know. Things are okay. They're doing the right things. I see it every single day, every single day. They're doing the right things. Is it easy? No. But we're doing it, and we're going to continue to do it. Now, but before I go, I want to do one thing. You see all these wrinkles on my face? Andy Webb was a student in my class when I was a student teacher in Prosser many moons ago. And so this one right here is for Andy Webb.
So we'll open it up to questions here just a moment, but I did want to, I'll get you first. I did want to acknowledge, after what Kevin has shared, the incredible work of every classified, every certified staff member, our principals. When you talk about contact tracing, we had to build out an entire contact tracing division of our school because the Department of Health did not have the personnel to trace in our district. And if we would have relied on the health district, we would never have been able to open, because they would not be able to function within the Yakima School District, or the other districts wouldn't be able to function. So we worked in conjunction, and that happened. And I know I look at Victor back there, and Victor, along with, over 50 other, principals across our district and assistant principals, spend every morning now looking for substitutes, people to fill positions, how they're going to cover classes, who's going to, and say in many cases, they're covering those classes themselves, or people from the district office are filling those spots. So we are certainly still in a somewhat of a triage mode. At the same time, we are being very reactive, but we're still trying and working incredibly hard to be proactive in those areas that we can, until we have a more sustainable model to address all the different issues. So we'll go ahead and open some questions. Yes.
So I know what you were talking about. And number two, anyway, you can probably hear me. Number two is, how much input do you as a have in the curriculum?
Thank you. So our curriculum, what we do is that does go before our parents. And so curriculum is brought in, and we analyze the curriculum with our internal network. We bring in our teachers as well to look at the different models. We bring in community, and then the recommendations go forward to the school board, and it goes to the school board for approval. And that's, it comes to me and then goes to the school board. So it all does come through me, but it involves a lot of different areas to make sure that people have their opportunity to express how they feel about it.
Could you expand a little more on how the kids are doing? Kevin mentioned the mental health issues. How about special needs kids? How about English language learners? Are the kids falling behind as a result of these 2 years? Thanks.
Yeah, and Kevin is not going to be able to sit there the entire time now that he had the second option here, but great question. And if I were to tell you that students are not at the level that they would have been previously, then why would we have schools? So obviously, yes, we have had missed opportunities when we go to a model for which nobody was trained previously, and everybody is out for almost an entire year. And then we come back in a hybrid model, which is 2 days a week, and then you're online. Things are very different. So yes, there has been, there is an opportunity for us now to take advantage of having students back. And I can tell you that I've heard everything from, kinder students coming in, or even first grader. First grade is a really great example. First graders coming in, and I've heard teachers, because I'm in classrooms, I'm in schools 8 hours a week in different schools in the area. And I distinctly remember the conversation with teachers around first graders who couldn't cut, who couldn't use scissors, and how that is something that they never had to think about, and how they were acting more like kindergarten students, and the kindergarten students had other behaviors that were not indicative of coming in to our system. And I heard just even yesterday, we had a principal sharing that, hey, it's just so unique that we have these students that have now come into middle school and they're out playing tag on the playgrounds, and they've never played. That was not a game that is played in middle school. But why are they playing that in middle school now? Because they left in 4th grade and 5th grade, and they're in that mentality then coming into the middle school. So now who knows, we might have a competitive tag team in the future, but yes, it has affected all. And we know that people that need more services are disproportionately affected. So you're talking about special education services, one-on-one services. There was a significant time, especially at the beginning, where there was no way for us to provide those personal services because everything was completely shut down. We were dropping, books off and lessons off physically at the doorstep, and then walking back out and clapping our hands till somebody answered the door so that they could pick up the work, until we had other systems in place. It was an incredible, looking back, and this, I don't get to do this very often. So if you look back at it, the way that things have changed, it was literally same day things would change. We would hear from state level, regional level, Department of Health. It was, you can do this. No, you can't do this. And then you're going to change it again, going to change it back. And all of this information always constantly going out on what we could and couldn't do. So yeah, it was, people are affected. We're 33% migrant population in our district. So there's a big concern in that area. And, right now we're still in the pandemic, and yet we are in buildings. We're masked up. We're taking precautions. Kids are doing well in being there, in loving the experience and being very positive, but it's much different than what it was 2 years ago. And even now it's not what it was previously. So there's a lot of work to do moving forward.
I think.
One more?
Yeah,
One more?
One more.
Yeah. The biggest positive. Go ahead. No, I really have a lot. I mean, I have a lot, but I'm trying to limit it to one. So connectivity is off, and relationships off the table.
Is that off the table?
That's off the table.
All I can tell you is we all started working way closer together.
Collaboration.
The collaboration amongst districts and professionals have been what I would go forward with forever. I mean, literally meeting every single week with the superintendent, assistant soups. It was like anybody could join that Zoom. Doug even joined the Zoom once in a while, when he went to work. Okay, Doug joined every time. But that's the best thing that happened. Literally working together across districts.
I go ahead. You can stand up. I'll be very brief. I think, yeah, you're laughing. I think one of the best things that has happened is that people are much more involved and have an opinion on what's happening in schools. So even though that could be seen as a negative, I choose to look at that as a positive. I mean, we're not Bellevue. We're not Lake Washington. And if we were Mercer Island or something like that, it would be a much different involvement with our community. But being the community that we are, we don't see that as much. And this has created a greater interest and need for connection that way. So.
Thank you very much. I think it's been one of the great programs we've had this year, and learning about our schools and whatnot is so highly important. I really appreciate both of you coming today and speaking to us. In your name, we'll be given the book Reaching for the Moon, which is by Catherine Johnson. And this goes to one of the community centers. Next week, we will go from schools to hairspray. And so bring your cans of Ultra Clutch hairspray or whatever else you need. The other thing is beyond that, then it'll be Veterans Day program, and then it's Thanksgiving. We have 2 committee meetings afterwards. I am very bad about remembering to do this. So remember today, I remembered. We have membership retention with Eric Silvers, who's right here. And we have Rotary Interact with Margaret Filkins, who's at the same table. So you have to go fight. So if you're one of those committees, please meet with them afterwards. Otherwise, we are adjourned. Ta-da.